Hello, I'm Daniel Ray, and I am here on behalf of Learning Group 5 to present to you our evaluation on Pure Gym 2.0. So today's agenda, we're going to look at an overview of the business of Pure Gym, then we're going to move on to organisational issues faced by the business, followed by a financial analysis on the current situation and our future projections, and then we're going to tie up with a look from a strategic perspective at Pure Gym. So, what is Pure Gym? Founded in 2009, Pure Gym is an owner and operator of gyms, 517 gyms to be precise, across Europe, in the UK, Denmark, Switzerland, and Poland, with around 1.7 million members. So the business model of Pure Gym, the value delivery is focused around brick and mortar locations and a free app. This is captured through personal trainer fees, member fees, corporate memberships, and premium class fees. And the value created by Pure Gym, it begins with low cost, no frills service, gym equipment, state-of-the-art gym equipment, personal training, classes, and my favourite are flexible plans. So the core challenges that we see facing Pure Gym today are COVID-19, high debt, and organisational structure. So I'm now going to pass over to my colleague Simi, who's going to speak a little further on organisational issues. Over to you, Simi.
Thank you, Daniel. So I'm going to talk you guys through the organisational issues that Pure Gym are currently facing. So firstly, COVID-19. Due to the virus, organisations around the world are having to adapt their ways of working to ensure the safety of their employees and make sure that they're complying with local legislations. Headquarters staff are now having to work from home rather than in an office environment. And through this, artifacts and values become a lot less obvious and it's harder to keep that culture going. Gym staff are now returning to the gym after a period of closure and they're in a completely new environment. It's important for the company to keep motivation and morale high and also to ensure that mental health is kept as a priority. Change management is important to ensure a smooth transition throughout these changes. Employees will be going through several stages of grieving, as demonstrated by this graph. It's important for Pure Gym to keep their employees and coach them through the stages to keep them out of that valley of despair. Aside from COVID-19, there are several other organisational issues facing Pure Gym, and there seems to be a disconnect between senior management and employees. And there's a challenge around brand perception, both internally and externally. Early this month, during Black History Month, this workout was posted on one of the gym's social media accounts. The workout, labelled 12 Years of Slave, suggested that slavery was hard and so is this. Unsurprisingly, there was backlash against Pure Gym, and questions arose on how this was approved and allowed to be posted. Each of the Pure Gyms run fairly autonomously, and they run their own social media channels, and this has really highlighted the lack of controls within the business. And internally, there are also negative perceptions with employees around the culture and environment that they're working in. There are several bad reviews from past and present employees discussing the disorganised and chaotic and toxic environments. Another structural issue that we've identified is the lack of diversity and inclusion. The company's reports only recognise gender diversity, and even within that, they show that 36% of their staff are female. This in itself needs to be addressed, but there's also a lack of focus on other areas of diversity, such as ethnic diversity. There's also a lack of diversity on the board, as you can see here. This can lead to groupthink issues, and there's no one there to challenge them on where their priorities lie or how culture and environment should be managed. So how did we get to this stage? Since 2015, the gym has been growing rapidly. They've acquired 3 different gym brands, and leadership's focus has always been on growth. And now we're in COVID, it has shifted to stability. But it seems that throughout all of this, the organisation and employees have really suffered because they've never really been a priority. We have 4 recommendations for the leadership. Firstly, in prioritising staff and communication, making sure that they're effectively communicating with employees how they will support them through COVID and further through their careers too. Clear policies and procedures need to be put in place, ensuring that they have internal controls and a level of central control of all gyms to avoid PR scandals like the one I mentioned earlier. Continuous training needs to be provided to all employees and at all levels. And they need to improve their diversity and inclusion. They need to make sure that they have initiatives in place, and these are starting from the top, including a diversity and inclusion role within their senior leadership with a suitable budget and a scope to ensure that these issues are addressed. Now I'm going to hand over to Daniel to discuss the finance.
Thank you very much, Simi. So, quick question for you all. What do Pure Gym and our MBA cohort have in common? We don't need much time for this. I'm sure you've all guessed it. It's debt. Yes, that's right. We're all in a lot of debt. So, here, unsurprisingly, we're going to focus on debt. The PFC, the Pure Gym financial crisis. So, having started back in 2009, Pure Gym were on a fairly fast growth trajectory up until 2017 when they were purchased by LGP, a private equity company. The focus then became on growth through acquisition, funded by, you've guessed it, debt. In 2018, Pure Gym took on £430 million of debt. 30 million of that was to fund the acquisition of Soho Gyms in London. This wasn't the end of it. At the end of 2019, they again looked at debt funding, this time as a bridge loan to fund the acquisition of Fitness World in January 2020. This was a rather large acquisition at £345 million, for which they raised £380 million. Now, as you can see, this has left Pure Gym in a lot of debt. Debt doesn't go hand in hand with COVID-19. And so as a result, COVID has hit their earnings. Their earnings now are negative. That's a negative EBITDA, which is earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, and amortization. As a result, LGP have had to inject last month £100 million into the business just to cover interest payments. So pre-COVID, their growth strategy, as we mentioned, of growth via acquisition, looked to be on a very, very positive trajectory, with 60% EBITDA growth from 2019 through to 2024. Now here we highlight the numbers in Denmark, which is the primary market for Fitness World. And you can see that in 2024, they make £69 million in revenue. 45 is left post-interest as cash, essentially to be able to pay off debt. So the picture looked nice pre-COVID. We can see here £255 million roughly in revenue, EBITDA at almost £90 million, can comfortably cover the costs of £83 million in interest, and a nice healthy cash flow there, around £77 million. However, we can see in June of this year the real impact that COVID has had on the business. It's no longer profitable. Earnings have plummeted. Interest payments are still there. You still have to pay off your credit card, right? And so how do we solve this? Well, they clearly need to look at new revenue streams. So given the shift in consumer behavior, we've figured that the current model is just not sustainable. So we're going to look at new streams of revenue. And for that, I'm going to pass you over to my colleague, Kaylee.
Thank you, Daniel. Okay, let's take a look at strategy. We've considered a number of different strategic options for Pure Gym. The first is for them to diversify their revenue streams. So we took a look at the average revenue streams generated by most gyms in the industry, and typically only 51% of their revenue comes from membership dues. When we took a look at Pure Gym, however, we saw that 92% of their revenue is coming from memberships. And this creates an opportunity where they could get more income from merchandise, classes, as well as personal training. However, we decided that this is not a feasible option for them because we can only tap into their existing clientele for extra revenue to such a degree, and it's really a difficult time in the current economic climate for us to be going for more money from our existing membership. So then we took a look at potentially going after a franchise model. Currently, all of the gyms are run under the same umbrella by Pure Gym. And we determined that this was also not feasible, however, because again, there's a lot of economic uncertainty and we're not able to actually operate gyms at full capacity. Therefore, franchisees would probably find our type of investment not very sustainable. Then we thought, okay, well, potentially we could look at attracting more members for our existing gyms. We could do marketing campaigns and increase the number of gyms that are, or the number of members that are using our existing gyms. However, this is also not feasible in the current climate because as a result of COVID-19 and for the foreseeable future, we actually have to limit the number of people who are in each of our gyms, and we need to keep our existing clientele safe. So then we took a look at their existing app. They have a mobile app, which is available for free to all of their existing clients, and is also not exclusive to their members. The general public can use it as well. We have determined that monetizing this app is a recommended approach for generating more revenue. So our strategic recommendation is to monetize the app. This involves building a health and fitness ecosystem and developing the features on their app to have robust training programs, diet and nutrition plans, which would include recipes and meal plans, personalized tips and guidance for health and wellness, and a live chat feature where they could ask questions to trained professionals. We priced this at $9.99 per month, which is actually less than the $14.99 fee it costs to do a daily drop-in at their gyms. This is also priced significantly lower than a lot of the other apps in this industry. We wanted to take a look at the rationale from an industry perspective by taking a deeper dive on the global fitness app industry. So we determined that there is a projection of a compound annual growth rate from 2019 to 2026 of 30%. This means that there's a significant market share available for us to enter. We also found that it's projected by 2027 that this industry will be worth $14 billion. The fastest compound annual growth rate was in the diet and nutrition area of the global fitness app industry, which is why we thought that this was an important feature for them to add on to their existing app. We also found that as a result of COVID-19 in Europe alone, apps in the global fitness industry were downloaded an increase of 25%. So we know that globally and within Europe, there is a huge demand for this type of a paid app. From a strategic perspective, this makes a lot of sense for them as well. They'll be able to leverage existing resources and capabilities in their technology department, where they have over 77 people already working on their app. They'll also be able to generate a new stream of revenue, which is not dependent on acquisitions or increasing gym memberships in this current climate. They're going to be able to provide a COVID-proof at-home exercise solution, which will sustain them in the future years in an uncertain climate. Let's take a look at the growth projections. So in 2020, we have 0 paid app subscribers. However, we forecast that by 2024, we'll have 880,000. We decided to keep our physical gym memberships stable over this period because we don't know how things are going to go over the coming years with the pandemic. However, we've determined that we're going to be able to take the revenue from £418 million in 2020 to £579 million. That's an increase of just under 40%. Now, what does this mean in terms of a financial impact? Well, we're going to be increasing the total paying customers by over 50%. This is a combination of both physical gym members as well as paid app subscribers. In addition to that, the adjusted EBITDA is going to be growing by 10% per year, and they're going to be able to cover their interest payments from the EBITDA going forward. The accumulated cash enables them to pay off 75% of their long-term debt, and they'll only have to refinance 25%. That's significant. And what that means is that they're going to be able to stabilize their business and grow, which will put them well on their way for self-sustainability. So I really wanted to bring this back to where we started. We identified 3 core issues for this organization, which were around COVID-19, huge debt, and then some organizational structural issues. We've determined that by monetizing their app, they're going to become robust to future demand shocks, whether economic or another pandemic. They're going to pay down their debt significantly and improve their financial health. And by stabilizing as opposed to continuing with this growth by acquisition model, they'll be able to focus on addressing internal issues in their organizational structure. I really want to thank you for following along with us, and we look forward to answering your questions later this afternoon.